Now hold on, I know what you're thinking before I even speak. What are all these dang flapping freaking Pandora Papers, and why do I care? And also, why is it all of the internet, news, my YouTube? And why should I listen to your video on the Pandora Papers channel when there's this one, or 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 this one? Well, we'll get to all those other questions in a second, but for the last one, hey man, what do you want to listen to? The exciting parts of the Pandora Papers from me, or this guy?
Many of these lawmakers were convinced that jobs and money would follow.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Welcome back. So let's get back to those questions, shall we? Number one, what are those dang flapping freaking Pandora Papers? Well, they're only the biggest leak of documents that explains how the super rich operate in doing things like evading taxes, buying property, possibly laundering money.
No, that's a lot of damage!
And this leak consists of 11 million files for a total of 2.94 terabytes of data, 3 terabytes of documents. Do you know how long it would take to make 3 terabytes worth of documents? I mean, that's bigger than the Panama Papers back in 2016.
Jesus Christ.
Which brings us to that second question. Why should I care, Chano? I mean, this all basically happened with the Panama Papers, right? Why do I have to hear about a new set of papers? Well, because we've got some new rich people that we can make fun of for getting caught doing some shady stuff. And it's kind of fun. Plus, if we're loud enough, governments around the world will take measures to prevent these people from getting away with evading taxes and laundering money. Right, governments around the world? Yeah, I guess I should have expected that. Another reason why you should care is because this involves you, believe it or not. The amount of wealth being hidden is between $5 and $32 trillion, which means up to $600 billion of lost taxes around the world. So the ability to hide money affects your access to healthcare and your kids' access to good public education. Okay, are you ready to make fun of some incredibly rich and powerful people, probably placing me on some sort of hit list in the process? Okay, we will, trust me, but really quickly, I need to explain how most of these people are hiding their wealth and doing all this shady stuff.
Brother, this guy stinks!
I know, but it sounds boring, but I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of buts around. It is kind of boring, but it's a necessary evil to make fun of rich people. So let's go. As you might have heard, they're using offshore shell companies, and basically that means they're creating a company that's a shell of what an actual company should be. It doesn't make any sales, it doesn't hire any employees, it just kind of owns things. It owns bank accounts, it owns assets, collects royalties, that kind of stuff. Most of the time, these businesses are set up in a tax haven, a lot of which are found on islands in small countries, Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, Bahamas, Switzerland.
I gotta say, these Swiss were some sneaky motherfuckers.
But with the Pandora Papers, we found out that a lot of shell companies are actually using South Dakota as a tax haven. South Dakota. They were tired of being known for nothing, really. What about Mount Rushmore? Oh, true, well, kind of fits. Yeah, kind of fits. I mean, what's more American than Mount Rushmore and making incredibly wealthy people even more incredibly wealthy? Anyway, yeah, those shell companies can be owned by other shell companies, which can be owned by other shell companies, and they can all be owned anonymously. So governments can never track those assets back to the people that own them and never be taxed. Now that you know how shell companies work, let's finally poke some fun at some of the people we know who are using them thanks to the Pandora Papers. Like this guy, Uhuru Kenyatta, the president of Kenya, and I bring him up first because his involvement in this link is especially funny since he is the self-proclaimed enemy of corruption. In 2018, he told Kenyan citizens that every government servant's assets must be declared publicly so that the people can question and ask, what is legitimate? Well, it turns out that he and his family have suddenly amassed more than $30 million in that time. Dang, don't you hate it when that happens? You're walking down the street after being elected and you stumble upon a perfectly legal acquired $30 million. It's the worst. And can you guess where that money is being stored? That's right, offshore shell companies. I wonder if he made those assets public to his citizens. Or what about this guy, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected in 2019 on a pledge to clean up his country's notoriously corrupt economy. And during that same campaign of 2019, we found out that Zelensky transferred his 25% stake in an offshore company to a close friend, who now happens to work as the president's top advisor. How does that feel, top advisor? All you are is a walking, talking wallet. You don't want more for your life? You don't want to be successful on your own? He pays me $4 million per year. Fair enough. On top of that, Zelensky bought millions of dollars worth of London real estate under two shell companies, one in Cyprus and one in Belize. Which makes me think, did Zelensky and Kenyatta come up with this plan while drunk together at a bar or something? Why did they both campaign as the anti-corruption guy while simultaneously secretly gaining massive corrupt wealth? Not for 1 second did either of them go, this blows up and people find out that I'm super corrupt. That would be really, really bad because, you know, I'm the anti-corruption guy. Just shows you how a lot of humans are like good old Mr. Krabs.
Hello, I like money.
Including the ruler of Jordan, King Abdullah II, who has amassed a $100 million property empire across the world, which isn't the best look when you have citizens living like this who find out through a leak online that your houses look like this. Let's be honest here though, these people don't have internet, so they'll never know. Smart moves, King Abdullah. But you know what's better than $100 million worth of property, Patrick?
Let me hear it.
$700 million of property owned by Azerbaijan's ruling family. So there you go, rich corrupt politicians doing what rich corrupt politicians do best. Kinda awkward that this had to happen to them now, considering a lot of them are up for re-election pretty soon. Oops. But yeah, those are the only names that I'm going to cover because most of the people involved are Russian and a few Brazilian billionaires whose names would probably mean nothing to you and me. But the overall point of the Pandora Papers is a bit more serious. It points out that past leaks like the Panama Papers have done little to change how the elite operate. The governments of the United Kingdom and the United States continued allowing the same loopholes as before, with billions of hidden money flowing through London property and billions being stored in South Dakota as a tax haven. It shows how clients who had been exposed in the Panama Papers leak simply transferred their shell companies to new tax havens, sometimes bluntly writing business decision to exit following the Panama Papers. As in, you let me get caught, I'm going to another tax haven that won't leak my info. Angry face emoji. And even if the US and the UK were on board to make change, it doesn't guarantee the change because this is usually an international problem. The director of International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, Gerard Ryle, made a great point when he pointed out why it's so hard to introduce reform in this sector. When you have leaders, when you have politicians, when you have public officials all using this secrecy, then I don't think we're going to see an end to it. And that's what's so frustrating. You ask politicians to come together around the world and to work to change this problem, and as soon as you turn your back, they're off buying property in Paris through their shell company. What's the point of even asking? Thank you for watching. Speaking of corruption, you should watch my video on the corruption crackdown in Saudi Arabia. It's super fascinating stuff. It's how the Saudi billionaires who worked in corruption for so many years suddenly found themselves detained and forced to hand over their money to the Saudi government. So if you like this video, you might like that one. Anyway, thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.